You'll let us know when we're live, Olawumi? Okay.
We are live now.
Okay, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. This is a meeting of the Active Transportation Advisory Committee for HRM. My name is Hugh Millward, and I'll be chairing the meeting. The meeting is being live streamed, and I'll call the meeting to order. The time is 4:34 right now. I'll begin with the land acknowledgement. The Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. Now I'll go to the roll call, just so we can do a sound check and make sure people can see and hear you. So as I said, my name is Hugh Millward. I'm chairing the meeting. So Douglas Wetmore is the vice chair. Douglas?
Present, Hugh. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Patty Cottle?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you. Peter Zimmer?
Present here.
Okay, Peter. Holly Woodill?
Present and accounted for. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, thank you. Annika Ropel?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, Annika. Elena Kasnovicius? Aha. So we don't have Milena just yet. Brittany McLean?
I'm here. Thanks, Hugh.
Thank you. And Glenn Babcock. Glenn Babcock. Okay, Glenn's not with us either. I think that was everyone because we have regrets from three people: Elizabeth Pugh, Paul Young, and Miles McCormick. I did get everyone's name, didn't I? I think I did. Also with us,
Milena is now on.
I'm sorry?
I think Milena has joined us.
Oh.
I have. Yes. Thank you, Peter. Hi, Mr. Chair. I'm here. Sorry, I was just logging in when you were calling my name. I'm here.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Milena. Okay. And with us, at least later, will be David McIsaac, Manager of Active Transportation. I don't see David right now.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, you are here. Okay, sorry. And Maria Jacobs with Active Transportation as a planner. Maria, hello.
Yes, hello.
Hi. Okay. And our legislative assistant is Olawumi Odiinka Apantaku.
Hi, everyone.
Very good. Okay, the minutes for the last meeting of July 18th were circulated to the committee. Were there any errors or omissions that you would like to note? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion to approve the minutes as circulated.
So moved.
Was that Peter? Thank you.
Peter.
And I need a seconder.
I can second that, Hugh. Douglas here.
Douglas, thank you very much. So the motion is that the minutes of July 18th, 2024 be approved as circulated. And I'll call the question. Those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed, please say nay and raise your hand. Okay, none opposed, so that carries unanimously. Thank you. Approval of the order of business and approval of additions and deletions. So, Olawumi, are there any additions or deletions from the clerk's office?
No additions or deletions received from the clerk's office.
Thank you. And committee members, do you have any items to add? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion to approve the agenda as circulated. Again, I need a mover and seconder. And
Holly moved.
Councillor Cottle, yeah. And a seconder, please.
Holly will move.
Oh, Holly, okay, thank you. So that again, I'll call the question. Those in favor of the order of business as circulated, please say aye or raise your hand.
I,
I,
Any opposed, please say nay and raise your hand. None opposed, so that carries again unanimously. Thank you. And let's move now to business arising out of the minutes, that there is no business arising. Item 5 is a call for declaration of conflict of interest. If you feel you have a conflict of interest relating to the agenda, this is the time to declare it. Okay, no conflict of interest, thank you. Number 6, consideration of deferred business. Again, there is none. Number 7, correspondence. Olawumi, is there any correspondence received by the clerk's office?
No correspondence received from the clerk's office.
Thank you. And petitions, any petitions received at the clerk's office?
No petition received also from the clerk's office.
Okay, thank you very much. We move on then, since there are no presentations other than staff presentations, we'll move on to item 8, information items brought forward. Again, there are none, which brings us to item 9.1.1, the update on the Alderney Drive Functional Plan, Phase 1. And I believe Maria Jacobs will be presenting that. Is that correct, Maria?
No, I'm sort of overseeing you here, representing HRM, but actually Courtney, our consultants, Courtney Pine and Brianna from WSP will be presenting it.
Okay.
Did you want to start now?
Yes, we're ready to go with that. Thank you.
All right. I'm
Yeah.
assuming Courtney and Brianna are here. I haven't.
Yes, yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah,
great.
I see Brianna. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so I'm the project manager or the active transportation planner for this project, Alderney Drive. And Brianna or Courtney will kind of give you where the extent of the project, but essentially it's a 30% functional plan for walking, biking, and transit through this corridor. And we hired WSP, so Brianna and Courtney have been working with me. We've been working as a team and throughout this project to develop the concepts and to do the engagement. And we've had the open house engagement in July, I believe, yes. And then now we're having the stakeholder engagement, the walkthroughs early next week. So that's where we are in the process. So after that, well, we can talk about next steps when, later on.
Okay, sorry, Maria, I want to just confirm who will be sharing the screen then?
Oh, Courtney Pine or Brianna.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Are you guys able to see? Yes.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, you're good to go.
great. So the goal of this presentation is for us to give you an overview of this project and a review of what we've completed so far. We'll talk about the concept options we've developed and the public feedback we've received so far. And then we'll get some feedback from you guys, what you think about the project. And we also wanted to inform you guys that the survey is still open until the end of tomorrow. So if you guys want to quickly fill that out after this meeting, you're more than welcome to. I think the link might be in the meeting invite, but if it's not, it's here. All right. So the objective of this project is to develop a functional plan for Alderney Drive, a transit corridor from Wise Road at Thistle Street to Dundas Street, which is shown in purple, and an active transportation AAA facility between Wise Road at Thistle Street to Ochterlony and the Dartmouth Harbourfront Trail, which is the dashed pink line. We looked at the integrated mobility plan, which identifies a cycling route through the corridor and a bus rapid transit route through the corridor. So that's kind of what informed this project. And we also looked at the Active Transportation Priorities Plan, which made it a priority to double the number of trips made on foot and by bike by 2026. So hopefully this project can help facilitate that. So far in the project, we've established the existing conditions, and we've come up with 3 conceptual designs for the study corridor, and we're in the process of the public and stakeholder engagement. Then we'll evaluate the concepts we have and select a preferred one to take to functional design and report. So I've already gone through that. So the existing traffic control in the area, there's a mix of signalized intersections, RFB crossings, and the RA5 crossings. The grade is pretty flat along the waterfront Alderney Drive area, but then as it goes up the hill, it gets pretty high, up to 8% grade in some sections. So Wise Road area is kind of a constrained area. There's a retaining wall on the right side and plenty of mature trees in the area that we were hoping to be able to avoid with this project. Same boat with Windmill Road. There's the retaining wall on the Dartmouth Commons side. This is kind of our pinch point area. It was the thinnest road area, and there's plenty of mature trees in this section as well. Alderney Drive has mature trees as well, and some buildings pretty close to the frontage of the sidewalk, so that was something to consider. And Ochterlony Street has a pretty wide cross section, but there's a CN rail crossing to think about for this section, and a high volume of pedestrians through the area. So here's the existing and proposed cycling network. The dashed green proposed greenway section is what we're looking at for this project. In the core pedestrian network. So the black is sidewalk, plenty of that available in the area. And the green is multi-use pathway. So this multi-use pathway on the right side of the page is kind of where we're trying to connect this project to Dartmouth Harbourfront Trail. And I won't get into the volumes too much, but we did have volumes at these 8 intersections from September 2024, which we used to inform our concept options. So now I'll get into the concepts. We have 3 concepts for the active transportation portion of the project. Concept A to C, with A being more of like quick wins and C being more long-term and B being kind of in between. So we'll start with concept A, which is unidirectional cycle lanes along Alderney Drive. A lot to take in on the pictures, but the yellow is multi-use pathway. The light green is unidirectional cycle lanes. The dark or green is boulevard, and the cyan color is concrete bollards. The red is used to indicate cycle lanes, and the pink is where retaining wall would need to be added or moved. So for the Wise Road approach for this option, the configuration would stay pretty much the same as it is today, but we would have shared lane for cyclists and transit. Right now it's just a transit lane, where the cyclists would then continue into their dedicated facility on Alderney Drive, which would be on the road but behind the bollards, and on the water side. And on the non-water side, it would be behind the curb with boulevard. And continuing down the hill, the facilities stay the same for active transportation, but we add a dedicated transit lane coming up the hill, not coming down the hill because we were a bit constrained for space. Continuing along, there's a short section of multi-use pathway before we cross the cyclists to both be on the water side around Church Street. That's what the purple color is indicating, bi-directional cycle lanes. And those continue up to Octorlony Street, where there's a multi-use pathway connection to the Harborfront Trail multi-use pathway. The Octorlony Alderney intersection is also where we start the transit lane on the water side that continues east of the intersection for our other concepts. So that's concept A. Concept B focuses more on transit than AT. So we have dedicated transit lanes on both sides, but we have a multi-use pathway on the water side for active transportation. The orange area you see here is kind of reallocated space. There's a channelized right turn movement now. We're proposing to remove that and have just a right turn lane. We're proposing to extend the dedicated transit lane on the approach of the intersection to be able to fit more buses. And the AT facilities on the skate park side kind of do their best to skirt around any mature trees through that area, where there will be cycling crossings through the intersection to go to a multi-use pathway on the water side of Alderney Drive. Continuing down Alderney Drive, that stays the same. Cycle multi-use pathway on the water side and dedicated transit lanes on both sides of the road. We keep the sidewalk option available on the non-water side of Alderney Drive. And that continues all the way through to Octorlony Street. For this option, we have the multi-use pathway kind of descend in through the parking lot to avoid some conflicts at the Octorlony-Alderney Drive intersection. So that brings us to concept C, which focuses on transit and active transportation. So for this option, we have transit lanes in both directions and dedicated unidirectional cycle lanes on both sides, both behind the curb on both sides. So the Wise Road approach is similar to what is shown in option B, but the cyclists would cross into their own dedicated facility on Alderney Drive. So continuing down the hill, the same thing. We've got dedicated transit lanes on both sides. Behind the curb boulevard, unidirectional cycle lane and sidewalk, which continues to Church Street. Like in concept A, we have them cross there and into a bidirectional facility on the water side, continuing to Octorlony Street. So past Octorlony to Dundas Street, we were looking at options for transit. And so we saw what if we repurposed the lanes, the existing lanes, to have dedicated transit lanes. So here's what that looks like. We keep the existing turning movements, but add in transit lanes. So continuing along past King Street and up to Dundas Street. This is preliminary line work for a different project, Sawmill Creek project, which is happening later this year, I think. It's not our project, but that's where the extents of our project were. So then we were into some public engagement. We had open house sessions about a month ago. There were approximately 40 attendees from the neighborhood. And we also had a pop-up engagement session at Alderney Landing to catch people coming off the ferry to see what they had to say. And some preliminary comments from those sessions are to keep cyclists and pedestrians separate. People were less interested in the idea of a multi-use pathway. Build for the future. Consider congestion during events. So often there's events at Alderney Landing, which may change the traffic patterns. Prioritize transit to move the most people. And we heard that option C was kind of the most preferred option from those open house events. So we also have the survey going on and the stakeholder site walkthrough that Maria had already mentioned next week. And some preliminary feedback from the survey is get rid of parking along Alderney Drive. There's a short section of parking, which people seem to not like. A concern about the impact on the Dartmouth Common and the mature trees in the area. Not really a part of this project, but they wanted to keep Lyle and Shore as an option for cyclists. Do not reduce the number of lanes. So there's always some commuters answering the survey that don't want the space taken away for their personal vehicles. And some people wanted better cycling connections to Ochterlony and to Portland Street. So I'll go over some next steps. Let's skip what we've done so far. So once the survey closes, we will prepare a what we heard report, and then we'll evaluate the concept options based on that, and select a preferred option to bring to functional design and report. And then hopefully we'll have this project wrapped up in October. So that's all I got. Happy to answer any questions that I can now.
Thank you, Brianna. That's very good. Usually we just go through the speaking list, at least for initial comments. So that's what I'll do. Brittany McLean.
Thanks, Hugh. Thanks, Brianna, for the presentation. I think with option A, the one big thing that kind of screams out is putting a cycle crossing through a traffic slip lane. It looks very scary to me, very big red flag for like future incidents happening there. So I would really love not to see that. Kind of a scary option shown. And then other than that, I think option C, having like separated facilities, obviously would be the most preferred. I'm glad to see that that's the engagement that's coming back, as most people are preferring C. Very happy to see, I'm assuming, I know bus rapid transit is proposed. There's quite a few buses that go down Alderney Drive. And I think like the Portland Hills bus rapid transit in the future and everything, that'll be great. I'll have to see that. The parking there that's in front of, I think it's like Celtic Corner. There's like 4 or 5 spots there. I feel like it's a conflict area in general. The sidewalk is really not very wide there either. So even as a pedestrian, it feels a little bit too enclosed when you're walking through there. Those would be my main concepts. Obviously, concept C seems to be the one that I would see preferred, and I'm glad that the engagement's echoing that. Other than that, no actual questions. Thanks.
Okay. Any response, Brianna, or are you?
Good, thank you.
Okay, that's good. All right. Holly Woodill.
I'm happy with the report as it is, and option C also seems to be the best for everybody in general. No, that's basically all my comments.
Okay, Holly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just add, say something here?
Sure.
Just so everybody knows that option C is the option that does have the biggest impact. So on the Dartmouth Common, so everybody's clear of that. The mature trees and the retaining wall and everything that, because we would dedicate space for everybody for everything, I guess. And so just so people keep that in mind.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cottle.
Thank you, Hugh, and thank you very much for the presentation. So just to the question about the impact on the Dartmouth Common, if those trees are lost and that wall is taken down, like, will it be moved and rehabilitated? Like, what is there a landscaping plan and a budget for reinstating something and planting new trees? I mean, it's never good to lose mature trees, but I get the constraints that we have on the right of way here, and it's like something needs to give. But I'm just wondering what the plan would be for reinstating that area, that retaining wall, as long as it's not just like rocks and gabions or something. And I'll just go through my other questions too. I agree, like we just shouldn't even propose mixed bike and bus lanes anymore. That should just be off the table. Like, we know it's not safe. We know it's not encouraging to cyclists, and it's quite terrifying. I've done it on Gottingen Street, and it's like, even to propose that as a solution, I'll stop even putting that up as like here's the third bad choice. Like just don't ever propose it. It's not a good idea. In terms of, the separated pathways, I get the desire for that. I think I've been in Calgary lately. I've been in Toronto lately. I've been, a number of years ago, I was in San Francisco, and they use multi-use pathways a lot. Like, there's a lot of places that use, like, where you can, you separate it. Where you can't, you have your multi-use pathways. And I've always found that in general, except for the e-scooters, e-scooters are a bit of a nightmare, but cyclists generally tend to be very respectful on the multi-use pathways with the pedestrians, and vice versa. It becomes a cultural thing. And I'm just wondering, in terms of cost, I mean, we've outlined options. What are the cost implications for each? And in particular for having a multi-use pathway versus a separated pathway, because I think that's also something that we need to consider. It's like we keep talking about this work and then it stalls and there's no funding. It's like we need to move forward, and I just no, we don't ever want to compromise, but sometimes in the name of progress, it needs to be considered. The other thing, just in the presentation, it's very hard to understand the switching of sides all the time. And, if that would be my feedback. Is there any way to ensure that we have less crossing from this side to that side, or bike lane endings, like to have more continuous experience? I think would be, should be a priority. I would think. Yeah, that's my feedback.
Thank you, Councillor. Probably you would like some answers to some of your questions there, or your comments. Brianna?
Yeah.
Or Maria, do you have comments?
Well, I was just gonna, sorry, Brianna, I was just gonna comment about the impact on the retaining wall, since I was the one who kind of stirred the pot. But it would be a significant impact, and you're right, we would have to, rebuild it, push it back and rebuild it. The idea would be to retain the existing kind of aesthetics and how it's built right now, because it's quite a in a lot of ways it's kind of a significant I don't know, part of HRM or downtown Dartmouth. But it would have to, we'd have to have it aesthetically pleasing and the rest of it. And yes, we would have to, the next phase, because right now we don't know. The idea was to give out the concepts, or to explore these concepts with the public. And then, but we don't have the actual details right now to kind of discuss about landscaping plan and rehabilitation plan. But definitely we would look into that after this phase. We would look into the rehabilitation plan and the cost and all the stuff of retaining and rebuilding that retaining wall.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Annika Roppel.
Yes, lots of information. Thank you very much. Sorry, just a clarification point. How wide are the lanes proposed in these designs? Is it 3 meters?
I think in that it varies. Courtney, does it vary for different sections of the corridor?
So are you asking about the vehicle lanes or you're asking about the bicycle lanes?
Vehicle lanes.
So the vehicle lanes would be following the HRM Red Book standard. I believe we'd be looking at least a 3-4 with a gutter at minimum. But we can definitely confirm that.
Okay. Yeah, I just think it's always an interesting thing of maybe we need to have a conversation about that Red Book. Okay, cool. Other than stuff that other people have already brought up, I think I get really nervous when I see bike lanes close to parking lots. And I know that parking lot that you have people coming off and trying to it feels the moment there's a parking lot, drivers are looking ahead for an empty spot. And so I guess I was just wondering that all of the designs seem to have it coming down and crossing the entries into that parking lot as opposed to going, and I'm sorry about going, turning first and going around the parking lot and avoiding both of those entries, the entry and exit, if my brain is working properly. So I guess that's a question is there a reason that that's considered? Is it a land ownership concern?
So just to clarify, I believe option A and C stay at the road level. They would cross the driveway entrance there to that parking lot, and then coming down Octraloni, there isn't an entrance on that approach, is my understanding. Option B is the one that we'd sweep down and be at the grade level, same as a parking lot. There is a height difference there. Of course, my hands aren't giving the reflective scale, but there is a height difference there where the cyclists that in the bi-directional facility for A and C would actually be higher. So we wouldn't be at the parking level. So hopefully it would just be at that driveway where you might see any conflict. And at that point, I'm hoping that they're not looking for the parking spot yet because they really can't see. So I get what you're saying, but I'm hoping that with this one here, it might be more B, might see more of that conflict that you're thinking of.
Okay. I'll hold. I know I'm planning to be at some of the walking stuff in the future, so hopefully my questions will make more sense then. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Annika. Peter Zimmer.
Thank you for the presentation. I've got a couple of kind of larger level questions. You seem to have designed, as you've indicated, using the present day Halifax standards. I do know there's discussion, at least among some of us here and elsewhere in the city, and among some of the planners, that maybe we should be adapting a slower speed model of the city. We should also be adapting a long-term, less cars model for the city, both of which tend to make the width of the lanes smaller, or you can make them smaller. They're safe. If the design speed is 30 or 35 kilometers an hour for traffic lanes, they can be substantially narrow, and you have more space. I'll bring to another change that's happening in the long run is there's going to be a lot more bicycles, a lot more scooters, a lot more cargo bikes. There may well be a substantial bicycle delivery services. And I'm wondering whether the lanes you've drawn have any consideration from those. Kind of a third large scale thing is intermodal shifting. We're going to be bringing in new ferries to the city. And if we're looking at what other cities have done quite successfully, you say, well, if you get off one thing like a bus, it's good to have a substantial bike share, scooter share presence there. And you have to design for that facility being there near the ferry or near the other bus stations. So I'm wondering if any of these overriding longer term changes that I think we will be seeing in the city are anywhere in these plans. Are the bike lanes as you've drawn them in any of the models wide enough for two trishaws, the cycling without age trishaws, to pass each other, or one's overtaking? If it's a bicycle lane, there still will be cyclists of all sizes and shapes moving at different speeds, and you have to allow for passing. I'm just not seeing that in the kind of kind of schematics that you're seeing. And I think those kind of thoughts should be introduced to the design process at the earliest stages. You say we're looking for not for the design for, well, if we push real hard, maybe we can get this in 2027. But I'm saying, what about 2035? Because what you're building now is going to be stuck in the damn ground for 30 years or 40 years. And if it's built inadequately 3 years from now, it's going to be inadequate for a whole long time. And so I'll stop my rant at that point. Just saying, I don't think this is very well considered.
Thank you,
Those
Peter. Any come back on those points?
I'll just kind of add to that. So yeah, we are using the most recent HRM Red Book standard, as I mentioned earlier, there for our design guidance. We are tying into, of course, the Wise Road bicycle facility that is currently installed with the precast curb and bollards, and we do recognize that that one there is going to be coming through a larger project, infrastructure change to do, like, the underground services and all that in the upcoming years. Again, I don't want to put a year on it, but that's kind of what we're at. And then also Portland Street is just kind of on the other side of us as well, with Sawmill Creek happening in between too. So working with kind of all that information, we did use HRM Red Book standards as kind of our guidance for our design. Option A, definitely we had more pinch points, so therefore we're a little bit more on the minimum side than we'd like to be, but definitely still within the thresholds that are kind of given to us as guidance. Whenever we can put in a water facility that gives us that space, of course, we love to do that. We're currently working with 3-meter bidirectional bicycle facilities that are proposed. We would have a half-raised facility, so that's where your sidewalk and your bike facility would be this half-raised difference. So if somebody did need to overtake, of course, they'd have to put their wheel over if they're 2 cargo bikes or 2 water bicycle infrastructures to kind of get by each other. But you can do it. It's just not, of course, ideal because there might be a little bit of a bump up, bump down. If option C was the one that is preferred, there might be more opportunity to shift an extra half meter to add it here or there to kind of help with those items that you did mention about the cargo bike overpassing, or 2 bikes that are kind of on the larger size passing each other. So that definitely is something that can be considered. As you saw, we're at the schematic or the concept stage right now. So of course, we're taking all the feedback and of course, bringing it back to HRM to say, hey, here's what we've heard. Here's what we're recommending WSP to HRM for us to look at the functional design, which is the 30% stage. And that is where we will stop for this project. So we'll kind of provide that recommendation, and then Maria and her team will hopefully take that to council, get the thumbs up there, and hopefully find some lovely funding for this to get installed, or detail designed and installed. But definitely all this feedback is great that we'll bring back to the table there and to the drawing board to see what we can then include as part of that preferred option.
Okay, one further question I'll throw in. Traffic volume data. Is that just data counting motor vehicles, or is it a comprehensive counting pedestrians, counting in all the different directions?
Yeah, you got it, Peter. So it does count our vehicles, and it does actually classify our vehicles as well. So it's not just saying we have X number of motorized vehicles on the network. It will break it into, of course, as many wheels as you want. So break it right down from motorcycles to small vehicles, like personal vehicles, right up to like your Canada Post vehicle, which is a medium size, to like a heavy large, and then it goes right up to 18 wheelers, and then of course buses and all that kind of thing. So we get the classification through our volumes for those levels, as well as pedestrian and cyclist movement, both cyclists on the sidewalk and on the roadway, and to and from. So are they traveling counterclockwise or clockwise around the intersection? So we get all that information through our data these days. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Courtney.
Welcome.
Let's move on then to Douglas Wetmore. Douglas.
I'm looking at these plans over and over again. I'm split between B and C. On one end, it's frustrating to look at a lot of lost mature trees, but especially from the bus rapid transit plan priority that's needed for that to work, I feel like option A is kind of out of the question. We need to pick between B and C here. I keep going back and forth. I really would prefer to see option C, and I'm glad that that seems to be the one that we're leaning towards. Hopefully, some of these other points that the other members of the committee are bringing up can be put into consideration, and maybe we can get an option C that isn't quite as impactful on mature trees, but no, I don't have much else to add. I just reiterating what a lot of others have already said. Thank you for the presentation.
Okay, Douglas, thank you. Milena Casanavicius.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the presentation, everybody. I have a question and a few comments. One, at any point, will there be raised bike lanes going across intersections?
Not in our design currently, no.
So none will be running through the crosswalks?
They'd be all at the same grade as vehicles, correct?
Thank you. Because Roby and Almond and Windsor Almond streets are a mess for those of us who are blind and partially sighted.
Okay.
And I do not want to see that repeated anywhere at any point in any future. I'm going to bring up the fact that, and I was just with the Accessibility Directorate yesterday in the meeting, to this day, Nova Scotia has the largest and highest amount of people with disabilities, wheelchair users, walkers, blind and partially sighted, et cetera, et cetera. We are the province where the disabilities are the highest. Multi-use paths, such as the one on Bears Road, are dangerous and a nightmare to those of us who use wheelchairs, walkers, and particularly guide dogs, okay? They're great when we're at places such as Chain of Lakes. So if that is going to happen, they need to be wider and more signs have to be put up, despite what the culture is in Calgary. And I grew up mostly in Calgary, and Calgary had the cycling culture a long time ago. It is not happening here to this day. Majority of cyclists are kind, but the other half do not. They don't care. They whirl around. There's kids on multi-use paths jumping all over the place, and cyclists and pedestrians don't mix. Last but not least, I don't want any mature trees chopped down, but if it comes to the safety of pedestrians and cyclists, we can regrow trees. We can, and we will do that by putting in proper infrastructure so we can get more cyclists on the road. So I'm going towards the same side as Douglas, that if some mature trees need to come down, sad as it will be, I want to see safety of pedestrians and cyclists first and foremost, rather than saving that tree, because we can replant them and they will regrow, because hopefully we will reduce traffic. End of that. Thank you. And I will be seeing everybody there on Monday.
Great. Thank you, Milena.
Thanks.
Thank you, Milena. Did Glenn Babcock join us or not?
Yes, I'm here. And I apologize for being late. I had another meeting to finish first.
It's all right, Glenn. You've already seen this once already this week.
I know.
And Glenn, did you hear the presentation?
Well, I didn't hear it now, but I heard it 3 days ago.
On Monday.
So, have you already provided your input?
Yes, I think my input was pretty much limited to I fully support the idea of separating bikes from pedestrians. As I commented on Monday, I've been hit by a bicycle once, and that's more than I ever need to be hit by. So keeping them separate is good. Also, because I would be more of a public transit user, the options that improve the transit lanes and everything, I think is also important. Seen a number of comments online in the last week or so. I guess there was a transit fare increase, so unfortunately lots of negative comments online, but I think improving the transit system and making it faster for people to get where they need to go and more efficient is definitely a good thing. Okay. In terms of the work, the trees and that sort of thing, yeah, it would be nice to save those trees, but you never know. We might have a hurricane next year, and they might blow over anyway. So
it's always the trees we want to fall down don't fall down, Glenn. It's always those ones that stay strong for us.
Okay, thanks a lot, Glenn. I have a few comments myself. Of the three options, I definitely don't like option B because it involves extensive use of multi-use paths. And like many other committee members, in any high volume situation, bicycles, wheels, and pedestrians just don't mix. And, you know, again, I've had personal experiences of bicycles, dangerous bicycle riding, not sounding their approach, not slowing down, not even passing necessarily on the correct side. So definitely bikes should have their own dedicated lanes, which seems to me to suggest option C would be best. And again, maybe that will be somewhat more expensive because of shifting the retaining wall. I guess with a 30% plan, you don't really look into costing, or did you?
So we're currently at the concept stage, so no costing just yet. But our next step, and that's where we'll wrap up, is that the 30% functional, and it will come with a construction class D or class C. I'll have to double check that, but a construction cost estimate to guide HRM in the cost of what would be expected at that time for the design. So yes, cost will be included as part of our package.
Okay, thank you.
And C is the most expensive. Yes.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, yeah.
But yeah, just to sum up from my point of view, option C is good for both transit and for pedestrians and for bikes. So that's my preferred. Now, we've gone through the speaking list, but if anyone wants a second comment or question, now's the time, and you should put your hand up if you want to do that. Okay, Brittany, I see your hand up.
Just one question. Where the retaining wall currently is, I'd have to go back through the drawings, but I'm just curious. There's already an existing sidewalk that goes up that really steep grade. It's like 8% or more. And I just didn't check. The slide went a little bit too quick for me to understand. If that is taken, I know we lose trees, same thing. It's like, of course, it's sad to see trees go, but I feel like improved transportation in this area is just highly needed. But I'm curious because it could also be a huge opportunity to make that so much more accessible. It's a really steep grade and there's a set of stairs at one point. So if you're using a mobility device, there's no way you're getting up that side of the street anyway. Just wanted to mark that as like a huge opportunity for improved accessibility through there. Was that in the plan? I guess it's just my question.
No, but that's a good point. We have talked about it that and looking at different options that would come, and instead of having the set of steps, but having circumvent or go around, because it's quite a slope. But it's definitely something we have to consider, and that would be considered in the rehabilitation, I guess, of that whole area, that hill.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, because right now you can't go around, like follow the road. You actually have to go through the Dartmouth Common because the sidewalk is more so there just as a buffer for the mirrors on the trucks and buses so they don't hit that wall. So there's not really wide enough facility there to walk today. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Peter Zimmer, I see you have your hand up.
Just a quick comment on trees. I'm aware from some experiences in the past that very nearly and actually full-grown trees can be successfully moved. It surely would be something that should be explored if this is a major obstacle in many people's minds to doing this, is find out the real cost and the availability and the suitability of the existing trees for simply being dug up. Balls, the root balls wrapped, them supplied with water sufficiently until their new location is prepared, or maybe prepare their new location before you dig them up. And you just say, okay, this is a massive landscaping thing, but if it's really important to save those as a feature that is apparently deeply beloved by many, I'm not familiar with it, so I can't say I love it or, so, but I think that's an alternative that's outside the normal highway building thing. You say, oh, what if we move those or some of them? Please take it
Okay.
under consideration.
Okay, Peter. Holly has her hand up. Holly.
Yeah, there we go. I just had the same question as Peter there, that could we move the trees? And was there an option ever to explore to lessen the grade there by going up through the park for bicycles and walkers alike? Just those two questions. And would they use it if they had to spend 1 or 2 minutes more going up the grade if it was lesser through the park? Anyway.
Yeah, so with the tree thing, of course, urban forestry is part of the HRM technical committee meetings. So of course, Maria can definitely flag them that this is something that we've heard and that we want to explore a little bit further. So we can definitely bring that up at our next technical committee, see if there is even an option or an opportunity for something that we can consider. Part 2 of your question there, Holly, is the grade going into the Dartmouth Common is quite steep. So there may be opportunity with us relocating that wall, the retaining wall that's there that we're proposing to put in say a unidirectional facility, or depending what option is selected. There may be some opportunities there to kind of tweak the grading, or we might have a little bit more flexibility since we may be able to move that wall. I can't guarantee that we're going to get to 5%, but we might be able to do better than what's currently there to help those that might be in a mobility device or cannot use the stairs to kind of, either roll or utilize another way to get around that wall that's there today. We don't know that just yet. That'd be kind of at that next stage that we'd further dive into that to see if there's an opportunity there.
Okay, thank you. So I think we've gone through everyone's questions, and I hope the comments are useful.
Of course.
And I suppose if one of these concepts is approved, the next stage would be the 70% plan, I think. Is that correct?
So we're going to be wrapping up. So WSP's contract goes to 30% design. And of course, we pass it back to Maria and her team. If they go through the normal design process, it would go to 60% design and then 100% detailed design. And then of course, this would work its way through the system. But of course, that's up to HRM and their team.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, well, we'll look forward to hearing more about this then. Well, let's move on with the agenda. And we have an active transportation update from David McIsaac, Manager of Active Transportation. David.
Hey, thanks, Hugh. Thanks, everyone, for that discussion. We've looked at and talked about so many different options in this corridor, and I like the fact that we brought her down to 3. And sometimes you hear public engagement or stakeholder engagement. HRM's just doing that, and they really know what they're going to do, but almost never the case. And your comments will help us. So thank you for that. I don't have a huge staff update today. I guess I was just going to flag. Marie already flagged that the survey for the Alderney project is open for another day or 2, and so if you can, get the word out in your network on that. And I know some folks are going to be on the site visit there next week, so appreciate your involvement with that. You all usually would get an invitation to the mayor's bike ride. This year, it's going to be on September 16th from 11:30 to 1:30, so that's a Monday. We're doing it on a weekday because we're doing it in partnership with Dartmouth High. And the route will start on Faulkner Street at the Halifax Harbor Bridges offices, aka the former Nova Scotia Liquor Commission, aka the former staging ground for the big lift, and we'll end out in Graham's Grove. So love to have you all there. I think our next public engagement from the AT group that because if we don't have a meeting in September, it's looking like the 3rd week will be when we have a bunch of activities for what we're calling the Graham's Grove AT project. So that's sort of looking at streets and Highway 111 crossings between Micmac Boulevard, then going to Braemar, then thinking about the crossing of Main Street, and thinking about what to do with the existing crossing at Harris Road. So quite a significant project, and we'll try to get an email out via the clerk's office to y'all, just so that you have it. The request for proposals for companies to operate, 1 or 2 companies to operate bike share and e-scooter share starting next spring is now out. So this is, kind of part of our transition from, I think I used to call it the Wild West of shared micromobility to having a much more regulated system. And that's for a 2-year pilot project. So that is proceeding. I think the only thing else I'll highlight now is just that it's still to be confirmed, but it looks like the Transportation Standing Committee meeting next Thursday will receive a report from staff looking for direction on the Peninsula South Complete Streets project. So that's looking at improved bicycle facilities, urban design, and lots of pedestrian improvements on kind of an east-west corridor at the south end of the peninsula that would involve kind of University Avenue, Morris Street, and adjacent streets. So keep an eye on that. I think we'll know either tomorrow afternoon or early next week when the agenda is posted. So lots of other stuff going on, but I'll just kind of leave it at that as the highlights, and happy to take any questions on that or anything else that anyone wants to raise.
Okay, thank you, David. If anyone has a question or comment for David on those matters, probably best just to put your hand up. And okay, Milena, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. Hi, David. The mayor's bike ride, you said September 16, 11:30 starting?
That's right.
Okay. And will you provide transporting bikes over from one side to the other side as you did last year? And people, which was fabulous, even though I didn't get to get on it.
I'll chat to Catherine about that. I think, that was something that we tried last year and that kind of worked. Part of it was because the ride was in Spryfield last year, so a little bit further from the regional center. But if folks would like that service and there's a group that are asking for it, we will definitely try to make it happen.
Excellent, thank you. I'll try and get as many tandems out as possible to bother everyone else. Smiling.
Nice.
Okay, thank you. Annika, your hand's up.
Yeah, just flagging the September 16th is also the Art of City building. And the EAC is sponsoring Equiterre to come talk about the work that they've done in Quebec around vehicle weight and size regulations. So sounds like it'll be a busy day.
Yeah, we kind of clued in a couple of days ago that was an overlap, but I don't know, we're just going to forge ahead.
No, I get it.
There's not too much overlap. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay. Anyone else have a question or comment for David? Okay. If not,
I did. Sorry.
Yeah.
What it just came to my mind. There was rumor had it supposed to be a on Liverpool, Windsor and Liverpool, a crosswalk installed and a crossing for cyclists from the east side, and a push button to get from Windsor onto Liverpool to head west. Is that still happening this fall? When is that construction due to begin, or is it not going to happen until next summer season?
Yeah, so I think the last I heard, what's going to get built there is more of a pedestrian crossing and kind of future-proofed for an enhancement to half signals for a cyclist crossing after a few decisions get made about the Forum property. But a push button RFB crossing for pedestrians is definitely part of the plan, at least. And I can't guarantee it's going to get built this year. It's been through pre-tender review, I know, and it may be out for bids right now, but it's, you know, August 22nd. So whether it gets built this year or not is still to be determined.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Well, I don't see any more hands up, so we will move on to added items, and there are none, and the date of the next meeting. And we don't have a September meeting, so our next meeting is scheduled for October 17th. And with that, I would call for a motion to adjourn.
I can put that forward, Hugh. Douglas here.
Thank you, Douglas. And I believe, I don't think we need a seconder for that. So I'll say we'll adjourn the meeting, and hope you enjoy the rest of the summer. And I'll look forward to seeing you in October, or possibly earlier at the bike